They heard every word. The man at the table nearest the host stand, pressed linen shirt, the practiced boredom of someone who ate in places like this 3 times a week, looked up from his menu when he heard the admission, and then looked at the man who had made it, and then looked at his companion with an expression that said well without his mouth having to. Daniel Park had not planned to say it out loud. He'd come in off the sidewalk because the rain had started. Just Maya and him. Maya in her birthday dress. The one with the small yellow flowers that she'd picked herself from the rack at the second-hand shop and declared perfect. "Dad, it's exactly right." And the host stand was just inside the door, and the host. A young man with the posture of someone who had been trained to evaluate people quickly, had been watching them since they came through the door. Reservation? The word arrived with a particular quality, not quite cold, but with a specific warmth withheld that is its own kind of statement. "We don't have one." Daniel was already looking at the menu board on the wall, the prices, which he'd looked up online and had convinced himself he'd misread. He had not misread them. "I was hoping, it's my daughter's birthday. I thought maybe a table, just the 2 of us." The host's eyes moved to Maya. She was 10 today. She was looking at the restaurant with a specific expression she got when something was beautiful, careful and open, and not trying to hide that she meant it. "We're fully committed this evening," the host said. And in any case, he gestured, briefly, at nothing specific, which managed to encompass everything. Daniel's jacket, the good one, but aging. The second-hand dress. The general presentation of a man who had budgeted very carefully for this evening and arrived at a number that was still not quite enough. "Our prefix this evening is 98 per person. Before wine." Daniel looked at the menu board, did the math he'd already done. "I can't afford this place," he said. Honestly, without self-pity, simply as information, the way he stated most things. "I thought I might be able to, but..." He looked at Maya. She was still looking at the room. The man in the pressed shirt said, not quite under his breath, "Then, perhaps the Golden Arches." His companion pressed her lips together. Did not disagree. What neither of them knew, what the host didn't know, what the man in the pressed shirt wouldn't have cared to know, was that the woman who owned this restaurant had spent 12 years working toward the things she'd understood in a 2-week pastry class, taught by the man now standing at her host stand in an aging jacket, doing honest math in front of a host who was making him feel the cost of it. What nobody in that room knew was that within 3 minutes, everything about this evening would be different, and the man in the pressed shirt would find himself unable to finish his meal for reasons he would spend some time afterward failing to name. Maya had not heard the comment from the pressed shirt table. She was still looking at the room. Daniel put his hand on her shoulder. "Okay, Bug. Let's find somewhere, Mr. Park." He turned. Daniel had run a bakery called Elena's for 8 years. Not named after himself. Named after his wife, who had laughed when he'd suggested it and said she'd prefer it to the alternative, which was Park's, which she said sounded like somewhere you left your car. So, Elena's. A small shop on Calloway Street with 6 tables and a glass case that Daniel restocked by hand every morning at 5 a.m. and which smelled, reliably and entirely, like brown butter and cardamom, and the specific comfort of something made with care. He'd been a pastry chef since he was 22. Not famous. Not the kind of famous that gets written about. Though one local paper had done a small piece in his 4th year that called Alana's the kind of place that makes you feel the city is still a place where quiet, beautiful things can exist. He'd cut it out. Alana had framed it. It was still in a box in the closet. One of the things he'd kept, without knowing why, in the early period when he was throwing most things away just to be able to breathe. Elena had gotten sick when Maya was 6. Breast cancer. Caught late. Fought with everything. The bakery stayed open through the first year of treatment. Daniel managing shifts, managing the books, managing Maya's school and Elena's appointments on a schedule that required him to stop sleeping more than 4 hours and never let him stop moving. The second year, Elena's closed. The medical debt had reorganized everything. He'd sold the equipment, vacated the lease, packed the recipe books into the same boxes as the newspaper clipping. She died when Maya was 8. Daniel had spent 6 months afterward doing what needed doing: the logistics of grief, the paperwork, the business of continuing, and then had looked at Maya and understood that continuing was, in fact, the entire job now, and he should do it consciously. He worked as a cafeteria supervisor at Jefferson Elementary. The hours were exactly right. He cooked at home, always, every night. The kind of cooking that came from someone for whom food was a first language. Maya had grown up believing that dinner was a form of love, because in their household it was one of the clearest expressions of it. She didn't know it had once been his profession. He'd never made a thing of it. She knew he was good at it, Dad. You could open a restaurant, she'd said twice. And twice he'd changed the subject, but not why he was good at it, or what it had cost him to stop. Today was her birthday. 10 years old. She'd asked, in the careful way she asked for things she wasn't sure she was allowed to want. If they could have a birthday dinner somewhere really nice, Dad. Not like a special occasion nice, like a real restaurant nice. He'd looked up Orchard Table, Sophia Reyes's place, the one 3 people at work had mentioned in the past year as somewhere they'd been to for anniversaries, and done the math twice and decided it was possible if he was careful the rest of the month. He had miscalculated by $11 per person, pre-tip. Mr. Park, the woman who came across the restaurant, was in her mid-30s, moving with the quiet authority of someone on their own floor. Dark hair pulled back, the kind of focus in her eyes that Daniel recognized, the look of a kitchen person, even in a dining room, always aware of 6 things simultaneously. She stopped at the host stand, looked at Daniel, then at Maya, then back at Daniel. Her expression was, he couldn't read it immediately, something between recognition and something larger. Sophia Reyes, she said. I own Orchard Table. She looked at the host. Something passed between them, brief, clear, requiring no words. The host found somewhere else to be. She turned back to Daniel. You have a reservation with us tonight. He looked at her. I don't. You do now. She said it simply, not as performance. The way you state a fact you've just decided is a fact. Table by the window. It just opened up. Miss Reyes, Sophia, she crouched slightly to Maya's level. Not in the condescending way, in the way of someone genuinely interested in the person they're addressing. You're the birthday girl? Maya looked at her. I'm 10 today. 10 is significant, Sophia said seriously. It's the first 2-digit birthday. That deserves a real dinner. Maya looked at Daniel with the expression she got when she believed something was going to be okay. He looked at Sophia. She met his gaze, direct, unhurried. Please, she said. Quietly, not performing anything. Just asking. He didn't know why, but he said yes. The table was by the window, as promised. White linen, a small candle, a view of the rain-wet street where the lights from the opposite buildings made the puddles into mirrors. Maya sat down and put both hands on the table and looked at it all and said Dad in a tone that completed the sentence without needing the rest of it. Yeah, he said. I know. The man in the pressed shirt was 3 tables away. He'd looked up when Sophia led them to the window table. He'd looked at her, then at Daniel and Maya, and then away. He'd said something to his companion. She'd responded without expression. The bread arrived first, sourdough with a crust that shattered correctly, and an interior that was open and chewy and made from something alive. Daniel ate a piece and was quiet for a moment. Sophia had passed the table twice, checking things. She stopped on the third pass. The bread's new. This week. The starter's old, Daniel said. Not a question. She looked at him. How did you know? The flavor's developed. Young starters taste eager. This one's patient. He paused. It's very good. Something moved in her expression. Thank you. She looked at Maya. What do you want for your birthday dinner? Don't look at the menu, just tell me what sounds good. Maya considered this with appropriate seriousness. Something with pasta, and something sweet at the end. And, she thought, something I've never had before. Something surprising. Perfect, Sophia said. I'll take care of it. She moved away. Maya watched her go. Dad, she's really cool. Yeah, Daniel said. She is. Because I want you to hear what happens next before I tell you. Has anyone ever given you something you didn't ask for and couldn't explain and didn't know how to hold? That's what this next part is. Stay with me. The man in the pressed shirt was named Gregory Marsh. He had, on his way to the restroom at approximately 7:45, paused at Daniel's table, briefly, without being invited, and said, to the middle distance between Daniel and Maya, charming of Sophia to take in strays, and kept moving. Maya had not understood it. She was working through a pasta that had been made at the table. Sophia had brought a small pasta board and shown her how to roll it. An impromptu lesson that had produced something imperfect and delightful, and which Maya had eaten with the satisfaction of an artist consuming their own work. She hadn't caught the comment. Daniel had caught it. He said nothing. Looked at his daughter, let the comment find its level, which was below his. Sophia had been near the kitchen pass. She had heard it. Daniel saw her hear it, saw the small stillness, the brief calculation. At 8:15, when Gregory Marsh's table requested their check, their server returned to inform them that the kitchen had identified an error in the original order. A bottle of wine had been charged that, on review, had not been the bottle opened at the table. The correction reduced their bill by $180. An error, the server said, that the restaurant was sorry for and happy to fix. Gregory Marsh accepted the correction with the satisfaction of a man who expected things to go his way and interpreted it as confirmation of his importance. He left a tip that was technically adequate. He did not notice that the correction had been originated by Sophia herself, who had reviewed the table's ticket, found no error whatsoever, and created one. He would not be returning to Orchard Table, not because anyone said so. Because Sophia had a long memory and a reservation system and the ability to be fully committed on every evening a particular name appeared in the request. The surprising thing arrived at the end. A small plate of Madeleine cookies, warm. The kind that required a specific pan and a rested batter and an understanding of when butter is brown enough to matter. Maya took one and bit into it and went completely still. Dad, she said. I know. These are like. She looked for the word. Like something important. Yes, Sophia had appeared at the table, without the authority walk this time. Something quieter. She sat, briefly, in the empty chair, not assuming welcome but not waiting for formal invitation. The Madeleines are from a recipe I've been working on for 3 years, she said. I haven't put them on the menu yet because I wasn't sure they were right. She looked at Maya. What do you think? Maya thought about it with great seriousness. I think they're right, she said. The outside is a little crispy, but the inside is soft. Like they can't decide what they are, but it doesn't matter. Sophia looked at Daniel. Your daughter tastes things like someone paying attention. Daniel was very still. That's... He stopped. What? He looked at the plate, at the cookies, at the brown butter smell that had found him in a restaurant on his daughter's 10th birthday, and something from a long time ago moving inside it. Something someone said to me once. Sophia looked at him for a long moment. "Mr. Park," she said. "Can I tell you something? Daniel, Daniel." She folded her hands on the table. 12 years ago, I was 18, and I had no idea what I wanted to do. I'd tried 3 different things, and none of them were right. A friend told me about a 2-week pastry intensive at the Community Culinary Center. She said it was free, and they needed participants, and I had nothing else that week. She paused. I went because I was bored. I stayed because of the instructor. Daniel looked at her. "His name was Daniel Park," she said. "He was a pastry chef with a shop on Calloway Street. He came in every morning with a different thing he'd made that didn't work yet. Bread that hadn't proofed correctly. A custard that had split. A tart shell that had shrunk. He'd explain what had gone wrong and why. And then he'd explain what it was trying to become." She paused. "On the last day, he tasted something I made. The first thing I'd made that I actually thought was good. And he said..." She stopped. Daniel waited. He said, "You taste things like someone paying attention. That's not teachable. The rest is." The restaurant moved around them. Glasses, conversation, the low, warm sound of a room full of people eating well. Maya was eating her second Madeleine with the concentration of someone conducting serious research. Daniel looked at Sophia Reyes, at the restaurant she had built, at the bread with the patient starter and the pasta lesson, and the Madeleine recipe 3 years in the making. "I don't remember," he said. "I'm sorry. I taught many classes. I know," she said. "I don't need you to remember. I need you to know that I did." She reached into her jacket pocket and set something on the table. A photograph, printed from what had clearly been a scan of a much older photo, edges soft. A classroom. A counter with mixing bowls. A group of young people. And at the front, a man in a white apron, holding up a failed pastry with the expression of someone explaining why failure was useful. Daniel looked at the photo for a very long time. He was 30 years old in it. Elena had been alive. Elena's bakery had been a year old. He had taught that class for the community center because they'd asked, and because he believed that the knowledge should go somewhere beyond his own kitchen. He had not known it had gone here. "The restaurant," he said finally. "Orchard Table." "Why my mother's name?" Sophia said. "She grew up on a farm. She always wanted to open a restaurant. She didn't get to." A pause. "Elena's was named after your wife." He looked at her. "I read the piece in the paper," she said, "years ago. I recognized you from the photo. I was going to come in. I went there once actually in your 3rd year. I bought a croissant. I didn't say anything. I didn't know how." Something moved in her expression. "When you closed, I read about that too. I'm sorry. About Alana. About all of it." Daniel looked at the photograph. At the man in the white apron who had handed something forward without knowing where it would go. "She loved pastry," he said. "Alana. She couldn't make it. She burned everything, every time. She thought it was hilarious. She'd come in and eat what I was testing and give me notes like she was a professional, and we'd laugh about it." He stopped. "I don't talk about this." "I know," Sophia said. "You don't have to." "No." He looked at her. "I want to." Maya had finished her Madeleine. She was watching them with the same expression she used on the chalk wall. Not drawing yet, just looking, taking in the light. "Before I finish this," If you've ever given something away without knowing it mattered, and then found out it mattered more than you knew, this part is for you. They stayed until the restaurant was nearly empty. Sophia brought the birthday dessert at 9, a small chocolate cake with a single candle, Maya's name in careful piped letters, and a card from the kitchen staff signed by everyone who'd worked that evening. Maya read every name twice. She blew out the candle and made a wish she didn't share, which Daniel respected, and ate the cake with the measured delight of someone who understood this was the best birthday dinner she'd ever had and wanted to last inside it as long as possible. Gregory Marsh had left an hour ago. He was not thought of. The host, on his way out at the end of his shift, stopped at Daniel's table. He was young, early 20s, Daniel could see now. He had the expression of someone who had been thinking about something for 2 hours and had decided to say it. "I'm sorry about earlier. He stopped. I shouldn't have done that." Daniel looked at him. "No, but you were trained to sort people at the door. That's what the job asks. Sophia doesn't ask that." "Then learn from Sophia," Daniel said. "You've got a good place to learn it." The host nodded. Left. Sophia walked them to the door at 9:30. The rain had stopped. The street was clean and reflective, the lights making small doubled worlds in the puddles. Maya walked ahead, examining the reflections, naming the buildings she could see upside down in the water with the authority of a 10-year-old geographer. "She's extraordinary," Sophia said. "Every day," Daniel said. Something new. They stood at the door. The moment had a shape, both of them feeling it, neither performing it. "I want to offer you something," Sophia said. "And like before, you don't have to say yes." He waited. "I'm developing a new menu section, pastry-focused. Small plates, the kind people order with coffee at the end of a meal." She looked at him. "I've been trying to do it myself, and it's not right yet. I know the flavors I want. I don't have the technique for some of them." A pause. "I'd like a consultant. Someone who would come in 2 mornings a week, taste what we're building, tell me where it's going wrong and what it's trying to become." Daniel looked at her, at the restaurant behind her, warm and lit through the glass. 2 mornings, he said. "I'd work around your schedule. The school cafeteria runs early. I could do whatever works for you." He looked out at Maya, who had found a particularly good reflection and was lying on her stomach on the sidewalk, to draw it in a small notebook she kept in her jacket pocket for exactly these situations. "There's something I should tell you," he said. "I haven't worked professionally in 4 years. My hands know the things they know, but I know the bread," Sophia said simply. "I watched your face when you ate it. It was quiet. You tasted it like someone paying attention," she said. "That's not something that leaves." He looked at her for a moment. 2 mornings, he said. She smiled. Not the restaurant owner's smile, the real one. The one she'd been holding back. The one that made her look like the 18-year-old in the photograph. 2 mornings, she agreed. Maya appeared at Daniel's elbow, notebook in hand, showing him the reflection she'd drawn. Buildings upside down, a street that became a sky. "Dad, I got it. Look, the lights do this thing where they're exactly themselves but in reverse." He looked at the drawing. At his daughter, at the woman in the doorway of the restaurant she'd built from a 2-week class, and a sentence someone had said without knowing it would matter. "Yeah," he said. "I see it." He meant all of it. Some things you give away in the ordinary course of a life, a class taught, a thing said, a door held open, a recipe explained with a failed croissant as the visual aid, and they travel further than you'll ever follow them. They find people in the dark and point them somewhere. They become restaurants. They become madeleines refined over 3 years until a 10-year-old takes a bite and goes still. You never know which words are the ones that travel, so you say the true ones every time. You taste things carefully. You show up to the class. You name the bakery after the person you love. And sometimes, not always, but sometimes, what you sent forward comes back to find you at exactly the moment you're standing in the rain at the door of a restaurant you can't afford. Your daughter in a second-hand dress, doing honest math. And the door opens anyway. If this one found you today, share it. And if you've ever given something away without knowing where it went somewhere. It always does.